What's up, dude? Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I don't think I have anything that I need to say before we start this video, so let's just jump right in. Today we are going to be talking about the Laci Peterson case. Scott Peterson was born October 24th, 1972 in San Diego, California. His father, Lee Arthur Peterson, was a businessman who owned a crate packaging company. His mother, Jackie Helen Latham, owned a boutique in La Jolla called The Put On. There were 6 kids in Scott's family total. Jackie and Lee each had kids from other relationships, but Scott was the only one that they had together. Scott shared a bedroom with his half-brother, John. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in La Jolla. Scott began playing golf at an early age because of the time that he spent with his father. In fact, by the time he was 14, he could beat his own dad at a game of golf. He played for University of San Diego High School, and by the time he was done with high school, he was one of the top junior golfers in San Diego. Phil Mickelson, who is a pro golfer, which I actually even recognized the name, was one of his teammates in high school. In 1990, Scott started school at Arizona State University on a partial golf scholarship. He, however, unfortunately, got kicked off the team because he took a potential recruit out drinking to meet girls. Long story short, the dad of the kid who went out with Scott complained to the coach of the golfing team, and he kicked Scott off the team even though he was the number 1 junior in the country. The dad just didn't want his son to be around someone like Scott, so he got him kicked off the team, even though this kid was just a potential recruit. He wasn't even recruited or playing for the team yet. So this kid either must have been a lot better than Scott, or the dad threw a big enough fit that they just didn't want to deal with it, like with the legal troubles. I don't know. Anyways, Scott transferred to Kista College in San Luis Obispo? And sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. And later to California Polytechnic State University. He majored in agricultural business and was described by professors as a model student, and they wish that they had a classroom full of Scott Petersons. Scott met his future wife at a restaurant called Pacific Cafe in mid-1994. Laci made the first move by sending him her phone number. Scott took the hint and gave her a call, and they went deep-sea fishing on their first date, where Laci unfortunately got seasick. As his relationship got more serious, Scott put his golf career on the back burner and focused on a business career. They dated for 2 years and got married in '97 after Laci graduated. While Scott was finishing his senior year, Laci started working in nearby Prunedale. Around this time, it's alleged that Scott had started at least 2 extramarital affairs. Peterson graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in agricultural business in June of '98, and the couple opened a sports bar in San Luis Obispo called The Shack. When they had a hard time finding a technician to install a vent in the restaurant, Scott got the certification he needed in order to install it himself. So he wasn't a dumb guy. Like, he was very smart. He did a lot of other stuff kind of similar to this for the bar/restaurant. After the bar got up on its feet, Scott and Laci decided to sell it and move to Laci's hometown of Modesto, California to start a family. She took a job as a part-time substitute teacher, and Scott got a job at Trade Corp USA, which is a fertilizer company, where he was making $5,000 a month before taxes. Laci's loved ones claimed that she was excited to be the perfect housewife because she enjoyed cooking and entertaining. And in 2002, she announced that she was pregnant. In November of 2002, Laci was 7 months pregnant, and it was around this time that Scott was introduced to a Fresno massage therapist named Amber Fry. In later public statements, Amber said that Scott told her that he was single and the two began a romantic relationship. The last time Laci's parents saw her was during a 3-day weekend they spent together in Carmel, California, the week before Christmas. On December 23rd, 2002, Scott and Laci went to a salon where Laci's sister, Amy, worked for a scheduled haircut. Scott talked about playing golf at a course nearby the next day, which was Christmas Eve, and he even mentioned that he would go to pick up a I believe it was a fruit basket for his father-in-law since it was near the golf course. Later that night at 8:30, Laci talked on the phone with her mom. Scott claims that he last saw his wife around 9:30 a.m. when he left to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina. When he left, he said that Laci was watching a cooking show but preparing to get stuff done around the house, like, mop the floor, bake cookies, and take the dog for a walk. Later that morning, a neighbor said that she found the Petersons' family dog, a golden retriever named Mackenzie, and brought him back to the Petersons' backyard between 10:10 and 10:17. Around 30 minutes later, so a little after 10:45, another neighbor said that he found Mackenzie wandering the neighborhood with a muddy leash and brought him back to the backyard again. Scott said that when he returned back home that afternoon, the house was empty, but Mackenzie was in the backyard, and Laci's 1996 Land Rover Discovery SE was in the driveway. Scott showered and washed his clothes after fishing because he had gotten them wet out on the water. According to ABC News, Scott reported Laci missing. The New York Post reported that when Laci still wasn't back home by 5:15 p.m., Scott called his mother-in-law, and then a half hour later, Laci's stepdad, Ron, called the police. When the police and lead investigators showed up at the Petersons' house, Laci's keys, wallet, and sunglasses were found in her purse in a closet. One of the two investigators found a phone book on the kitchen counter, and it was open to a full-page ad for a defense lawyer. When Scott was investigated that evening, he was dead calm, which of course investigators found suspicious because that's very weird. Scott didn't question any of the police or investigators about what would happen next, and they found that super strange as well. So normally when this kind of thing happens, you start asking questions like, when am I going to hear back from you guys? What are you doing next? What should I do next? He asked none of that. Scott initially said that he had gone golfing, but he told police that he had gone to fish for sturgeon in Berkeley. And at 2:15, he left a message for Laci saying, "Hey beautiful, it's 2:15, I'm leaving Berkeley." He said that he went fishing about 90 miles from their home. Investigators immediately started a search. Scott was suspected of foul play immediately, but they didn't treat the case as suspicious right away. They just treated it as a missing person. On January 17th, 2003, it came out that Scott had 2 affairs prior to Amber. Amber denied having an affair. He said he lost his wife. This would be the first holiday without her. And it's also reported that they found that Scott had ordered 2 adult content channels to be added on to his cable package. So the investigators assumed that he knew his wife wouldn't be coming back home. On April 13th, a couple was walking their dog and they came across the decomposing body of a small baby in a marshy area in the San Francisco Bay Shore, which is north of Berkeley. 1.5 loops of nylon tape were found around the baby's neck, and there was a large gash on the baby. A day later, the torso of a recently pregnant woman was found wearing pants and a maternity bra along a rocky shoreline of the same park, a mile from where the baby's body was found. The head, arms, and most of the legs and all of the internal organs, except for the uterus, were missing. On April 18, 2003, the DNA results concluded that the body was Laci's and the baby was hers and Scott's. The exact date and causes of death were never to be determined. The baby's body had been mutilated a little bit as well on one side. Police were afraid that Scott might try to escape to Mexico, and being in California, they were very close to the border. They had a tracker put on his car so they could watch him. Brocchini, a detective, commented in 2017, "I just thought, we've got to find Scott right now. He told me he was there and that's where the bodies come up. I mean, I believe it was premeditated. He planned it. San Diego was pretty darn close to the Mexican border. Scott knew the area pretty well. That's where his parents lived. That's where he lived. So it wasn't like he was going to have to get on MapQuest to try and figure out a way to get to Tahuna." Scott was arrested on April 18, 2003 near La Jolla Golf Course. He colored his hair blonde and grew a mustache and a goatee. He's a natural brunette, so this was a pretty drastic change. He had a bunch of random items in his Mercedes-Benz, as well as $15,000 in cash, 12 Viagra tablets, survival gear, camping equipment, several changes of clothes, 4 cell phones, and his brother's license as well as his own. He was arraigned on April 21st, 2003 with 2 felony counts of murder with premeditation and special circumstances. His trial began on June 1st, 2004. His defense lawyer based their case on a lack of evidence. A single hair was the only forensic evidence that was identified. The hair matched in DNA comparison to hair from Laci's brush. The hair was stuck to pliers on Scott's boat. So that is odd, and that really wouldn't help anybody's case. The fact that Scott had changed his appearance so drastically and bought a vehicle in his mother's name was also brought up. He stated interest in selling his and Laci's home, and he traded her Land Rover for a Dodge pickup. Prosecution suspected that his motive for the murder was due to his affair with Amber, financial problems, and impending fatherhood. On November 12, 2004, Scott was convicted on 2 counts of murder. First-degree murder with special circumstances for killing Laci, and second-degree murder for killing the fetus. He was given the death penalty by lethal injection and ordered to pay $10,000 towards the cost of Laci's funeral. Funerals are expensive. On July 6, 2012, Scott's attorney filed a 423-page appeal of his sentence. And long story short, on September 22, 2001, California Supreme Court Judge Anne Christine Musulo ruled that Scott would be resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And that's kind of where the case ends. I don't necessarily want to stick up for Scott because ultimately, yes, I do think that he did it. There's just so many things stacked up against him. Like, why he wasn't more concerned with what was going to happen after he had called the police. Why he changed his appearance so drastically. Why he had all of those really odd things in his car, like he was preparing to make a run for it if he needed. And also the hair on the pliers. That is really strange. And the body was found near where he said that he was fishing. And he changed his story when talking to police. So that right there is a huge red flag. Ultimately, I personally do believe that he did it, but I also understand that they never got a confession out of him. So, I don't know. I agree it would be hard to put someone to death if, there is a small sliver of a chance that they didn't do it. But I also think that life in prison was the right call because there's a 90% chance that he did it, but there's also maybe a 10% chance that he didn't. So in the end, I do think that this case was handled correctly, and I agree with the sentencing. I do, however, want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you think about this case. If you guys have any cases that you would like me to just briefly cover, such as this one, leave it in the comments down below as well. You guys know I'm just here to kind of give you the Cliff Notes version of these true crime cases and just keep it short and brief. So that is all that I have for you guys today. Make sure to come back tomorrow for another True Crime Courier video, and until then, have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye guys. Sound sync now. And later oh, what? Prosecutor, whoa, excuse me. GoPro, stop recording.